All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get the program started. So I did get a lot of assistance from Dr. Louise McCormick at the beginning. She helped me dig up some great photos. I think I eliminated any and all of me, so that's the good news. So, but we are going to start the program. We had one of our students, Nicole Savoy, our student worker, help me with this video. And when I say help me, I said, I don't know what I want, but can you make a video? And she did. And then Evan Alfano, our new broadcaster, I don't know his real title, that's not it. But Evan is our new staff member here, Evan Alfano, and he does all of our broadcasts and all of that web streaming stuff. Sorry, I'm old, I'm doing my best. So we're gonna start off with our little video here. Go ahead, Evan.
Hi, my name is Jen Durasp, and I had the great privilege and honor of being a student of Dottie Deals and also a student athlete, and I also was the athletic trainer for field hockey when I was in undergrad at Plymouth State, and she was very impactful from my experience. She role modeled in all that she did, precision, expertise, intellectual like prowess basically, and attention to details. She was brilliant and fun and determined and had more energy than any of us put together. She role modeled what it would be like or could be like to be an educator, to be a leader, to be a powerful woman. And she really had a lot to do with my choices in life, and she's very dear to me and always will be. Thank you.
I will say for our first call to action, Louise and I dug through a lot of pictures, and Chris and I still have to dig through a lot in the back room. But any of you women who played for us here, if you could send us more pictures, we really want to do a better job of capturing the entire history of Plymouth State women's athletics, because there's so many great teams, and many of you sitting right here, that we need more pictures of it, and we want to be able to capture that. And wouldn't that be great to be able to celebrate that each and every year with so many of our current student athletes? So I just wanted to put that out there as a PSA. So anyway, so let's start this thing. So thank you all for being here in celebration of 50 years of Title IX. And this is a tribute to the women of Panther athletics. This is an evening to reflect on a milestone that has meant so much to all of us. A reminder of the beauty of sport, the life lessons that are learned through athletics. Most importantly, this is a mosaic of memories founded in sweat, camaraderie, laughter, commitment, and the spirit of competition. The opportunity to be a part of athletics, to be on a team, is truly a gift. This is a celebration of our past, a moment to be thankful for our present, and a call to keep striving forward to the future. Keep growing that family tree of Panther athletics. It's rooted deep in the common goal of athletics connects us all, no matter the generation. This room is full of people committed to that spirit and proud to be part of this Plymouth State community that runs far and wide. The uniforms may have changed, the facilities certainly have changed, though some maybe not, but we're getting there. But in the end, the opportunity to play, to chase your dreams, to reach for new heights, the rewards, your amazing friends, the amazing friends, your mentors, and those who've helped shape your lives. Something we should all be so proud of, to be a part of this community. June 23rd, 1972, 50 years ago, a law was passed. No person in the United States on the basis of sex be excluded from the participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The spirit of tonight's is to take these 37 words and tell the story of those who paved the way for all of us in this room here tonight. Proud alumni, family, and friends, and the young women, so many of you here tonight, who are the next generation of Plymouth State athletics and the future of women in athletics. Tell us your stories. History is a powerful thing. It's how we grow, it's how we learn, and it's how we set the course for the next generation. So our first story begins with a young woman who came here all the way from New Jersey and never looked back, and quite honestly hasn't slowed down yet either. In 2018, the winningest volleyball coach in New Hampshire became our head coach. Joan Forge has been a fixture in New Hampshire high school girls sports for decades. That makes you sound really old. Apologize for that. That was an unscripted moment there. Joan coached basketball, volleyball, and softball and recorded over 1,000 wins. And for the last 5 years, Joan has done what Joan does best. She's gotten the most out of the women who play for her. And she's rewritten history along the way. A story unique to her, an experience that many of us have shared here at Plymouth. It's the people, it's this campus, it's the pumpkins on top of Rounds Hall. It's the time in the PE Center, it's the teachers, it's our coaches, it's our teammates. From the class of 1977, you are old then, sorry about that. Inducted to the PSU Hall of Fame in 2002, please welcome Joan Forge.
It's a tough act to follow there, woman. I would like to thank Plymouth State Athletic Administration for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. Title IX is a part of history that is very dear to me. It changed my life and the direction of my career, becoming a physical education teacher and coach. I want to give a special thanks to Lauren Levine for organizing this event today. And I'd like to start by talking to the present student athletes that are here right now. 2 years ago when COVID hit, life the way we knew it came to a screeching halt. For athletes, everything you lived for was taken away. No more competition, no more practicing to improve your skills, no more hanging and socializing with teammates, no more strength training, no more athletic trainers taking care of your aches, pains, and injuries. That was a difficult time, both mentally and physically, rather depressing. How would each of you like to live in a world where that is your reality? That was the way of life for girls who grew up prior to early 70s, pre-Title IX. That was my way of life. Many females like myself managed to get involved as best as we could. I did attend school board meetings in my hometown to fight for opportunities to play sports at the JV and varsity level. When I was inducted into my high school Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame a few years ago, my presenter called me a pioneer of girls' sports. This is something I'm very proud of. In turn, I am thankful for the many people who fought the battle for the passage of Title IX, equalizing females and male sports. I'm old enough, as Lauren said, to be a part of history, hence why she asked me to speak about this Title IX. I grew up in New Jersey, like she said, in a small town called Glen Rock, just west of New York City. I came from an athletic family. I was a little sister of 2 older, very athletic brothers, and they were my role models. In elementary school, I was called a tomboy. That was a nickname given to girls who liked to play and compete. I was the only girl who can climb to the top of the rope in gym class, and I was one of the first kids picked on teams for games like kickball. I played with the neighborhood kids after school, on weekends, and in the summers. We played stickball, touch football, basketball, pond hockey, whatever was going on. Sports were organized for the boys, but not many opportunities for the girls other than playing with the neighborhood kids and town softball. I did try out for the cheerleading squad. It was an organized sport, so it appealed to me for that reason, and I didn't make the team. Truthfully, things happen for a reason. I tell my team that always. And I knew that I'd rather be playing football and basketball rather than cheering for the boys that were allowed to participate. I entered Glen Rock High School as a freshman in 1969. This was a time when high school phys ed classes were not co-ed. The gym had a dividing door. The girls were on one side, the boys were on the other. Home economics was only for girls. Industrial arts, which was woodworking, was only for the boys. Girls had to wear dresses to school. That was the dress code, so that's what we did. There was a multitude of varsity and JV sports for the boys to choose from, and the girls, we were limited. I was on the high school soccer team. How many soccer players here today? That was my sport in high school, okay? My physical education teacher, she was the coach. It was considered not intramurals, but extramurals, meaning we had a schedule. We got to compete against other schools. But there was a boys' soccer field at our high school. It was a beautiful field, and we were not allowed to practice on it, and we were not allowed to compete on it. We had to use a grass field and bring 4 cones out every day to practice, 4 for the corner markers, and then 4 more for the goals. And our uniforms consisted of a scrimmage vest over our t-shirt. It was what it was. We competed, and we had fun. I played basketball in the winter months, and we had 2 gyms in our school. We had a high school gym that had a beautiful, high school gym was beautiful. Then we had a small gym in the middle school. Well, they wouldn't let us compete or practice in the big gym, so we had to go to the middle school to practice in the small gym. And that wasn't the worst of it because they wouldn't let us in after school. So we would show up before school and we would practice. But we did get to compete in the small gym after school, so we were happy for that. We also played with 6 players on the court. 2 guards would be on the defensive side, 2 forwards would be on the offensive side, and then if you were and they couldn't cross. And if you were lucky, you got to be a rover, and then you got to go the whole length of the court. And the intention was girls were not supposed to sweat. We weren't supposed to, and the older people in here understand that, okay? They didn't want us to get hurt. They didn't want to have us exert too much energy. Our uniforms were really nice looking. They were one-piece tunics with a cloth belt and bloomers underneath. And I have a chuckle, I think, from some of the older players here for people. So a little different than uniforms are today, especially the ones my volleyball team wears. In spring, I was on the Glen Rock softball team, and we represented our school. One of the parents was our coaches. There were no buses to transport us, so we'd have to get rides to the games. And there was no softball field at our school, only a baseball field. So we would walk to the elementary school where there was a softball field, and that's what we played on. There were no articles written in local newspapers about girls' sports, but the school newspaper would occasionally give us some print. There were no sports awards, certificates of participation, no recognition, but we were happy, again, because we got to play. Then, in 1972, I entered my senior year of high school, the year Title IX was signed into law. The changes that took place my first year were enormous. Starting with phys ed classes were now co-ed. The dividing door was open, okay? And I could tell you it was a lot more fun. The woodworking class I was able to take. I built myself a ski rack because I love downhill skiing. I was so excited about that ski rack. The boys were able to take home economics, and to entice them to take it, they called it kitchen survival. The dress code was gone, and girls were able to wear pants, and I wore blue jeans that whole year. That was huge. The biggest impact for me was playing on the high school basketball team my senior year. We had a paid coach for the first time. We had new uniforms. We got to practice and play in the big gym. And we had 5 players on the court. We can run the entire court, and yes, we did sweat. I was named captain of that basketball team, so I can lay claim, because it really was our first true season, I can lay claim of being the first girls basketball captain of my hometown high school. Partway through the basketball season, I scored my 100th point. They stopped the game, presented me with the ball. My parents were both there, and 100 points for a girl was a big deal. I have to clarify that we did use the bigger ball for the men's basketball, and there was no three-point shot at the time. But even though we were equalized to the boys and girls basketball teams, we did play with 6-minute quarters, and they had 8-minute quarters, so there's still progress to be made. During the spring of my senior year, I drove up to New Hampshire with my mother to visit Plymouth State College. I wanted to attend college in northern New England and major in phys ed. When I walked through the doors of that building across the street, the Fieldhouse PE Center, it was state-of-the-art, brand new, indoor track, pool with a high diving board, huge gym, fitness room to train in, racquetball courts. I was like a kid in the candy store. And the best part were all the sports options for all the females. It didn't take long for me to pay my deposit to be a Panther. Unfortunately, they didn't have women's soccer back then, and that was one of my sports. I was told the gymnastics team was looking for members, so I figured I would go for it. I love my teammates, happy to be on a college team getting trained and being coached. It was a great first college team experience. In the winter, I tried out for basketball. Yeah, that was my sport, and I didn't make it, much like cheerleading. It could have been my lack of height, not sure. I did score over 100 points in high school, but I'm not sure really what Janet Nell was thinking when she cut me. My advisor was Joanne Peterson. She was the ski coach, and she met with me to see how I was doing, and I said, I'm doing fine, but I didn't make the basketball team. And she asked, do you ski? I said, yeah, I've been skiing since I was 7. She goes, how'd you like to be on the ski team? I'd love to. She goes, all right, meet at Langdon Park at 3 o'clock tomorrow. I'm like, Langdon Park? That's not a ski area. She said, that's where Nordic ski practice takes place. Okay, a team, a sport, teammates. I'm going to get trained in it. I'm in. So I was now on a D1 Nordic ski team, and it was one of the best things I did throughout my days here at Plymouth State. In the spring, Plymouth State didn't have softball, my other love. So my teammates from the gymnastics team, they convinced me to play lacrosse. I told them, but I never played before. And they said, well, everybody that comes out for lacrosse has never played before. We teach you, you'll learn. Okay. Well, my junior year, we went undefeated, and then my senior year, I was announced captain. So I guess I learned the sport. I will forever be thankful to Plymouth State for the opportunities and life experiences they provided me. I am grateful that I have come full circle by attending Plymouth State College, getting my degree in phys ed, coaching 4 different high school sports throughout my career. You forgot field hockey. And now returning to give back to Plymouth State University by coaching the women's volleyball team. Of the teaching and coaching experiences that I have held in the past, coaching the PSU volleyball team is the highlight of my career and most rewarding. The volleyball coaching staff, the support I get from the Plymouth State administration, and especially the volleyball players sitting over there are the reasons why. I'm thankful for my role models, my high school basketball coach, Ann Camp, my college ski coach, Joanne Peterson, my lacrosse coach, Janet Nell, and of course, one of my favorite professors in the phys ed department, Dottie Deal. She was energetic, positive, and had the friendliest smile, and I think I admired her most, though, because she was vertically challenged like myself. In closing, I have to admit that sometimes when I coach, I stop, I look across the gym to see the amount of fans watching us and cheering for us. And it gives me what I call the goosies to see how far we've come for promoting female sports. People cheering and supporting something today that did not exist in my past. A message to everyone: never take any of this for granted. Love everything about female athletics, because there's a lot to love and be proud of and a great deal to be thankful for. And before I step aside, I have one public request of Kim Bounds, our athletic director. Kim, she's hiding. When I reach 50 years of coaching, I want you to make the following request a reality. I want to ride on the PSU Ice Arena Zamboni. Can you make that happen? You're first, okay.
Actually, you can do that now. I happen to know. Wait till 6:30. I happen to know the manager of the ice arena. And I can tell him that he can give you a ride whenever you want.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You are vertically challenged. Thank you, Joan. That was awesome. That's why I wanted you to speak, because Joan comes to work each and every day with so much passion, with so much heart, and we always talk about how much we respect her because she's always willing to fight for her team, and not enough people do that in this day and age, so that's something I've always admired about you, Joan, and I've learned from you, so thank you for always being willing to fight for your team, fighting for all of our student athletes. I'm sorry. Well, none of the men's coaches are here, so we're good. Just kidding. Craig was supposed to be here. Anyway, so we've talked a lot about Dot Deal, and she's a big part of our video, so we're gonna learn more about her. But tomorrow, our field hockey team is gonna celebrate our second annual Dot Deal game. Dot's reach is well beyond just the field. Her legacy is also rooted deeply in our academics. Julie Bernier was also a college softball player at Keene State. She's a renowned professional in the field of athletic training. She was awarded the Distinguished Graduate Teaching Award and also received the New Hampshire Women in Higher Education Leadership Award. Julie's a teacher, she's a scholar, and add to all that, she's also an accomplished artist. Julie Bernier has meant so much to Plymouth State, and she's here to tell you a story of a tiny little woman who made a giant impact on all of us. A woman we all affectionately call Dot. Please welcome Dr. Julie Bernier.
Thanks, Lauren, and thank you, everybody, for being here to celebrate. It's an honor to talk to you about the 1972 Title IX Education Amendment and its impact. There are literally thousands of people that we could talk about that have made Title IX a reality, but I'm going to focus on two people, Patsy Mink and Dot Deal. You're saying, who is Patsy Mink? In 2002, Title IX became known as the Patsy Mink Education Amendment, renamed for the co-author of Title IX. A Japanese American from Hawaii, Patsy Mink became the first woman of color elected to Congress. Patsy was the high school valedictorian. She wanted to go to medical school. She enrolled at the University of Nebraska, and when she arrived, they housed her with the international students. When she required why she, as a Hawaiian, was in the international student dorm, they told her it was because no colored people were allowed in the regular dorm. She didn't like that. She pushed back. She protested. She wrote in the newspaper. And the following year, that practice was changed, and an advocate was born. She was a very successful student in college. When she graduated, she applied to 12 medical schools, and she was denied by all of them because she was a woman. She took up a job as a typist 2 weeks later, she quit and enrolled in law school. She graduated from law school in a class of 90, one of only 2 women and 2 Asians. She set out to find a job in a Chicago law firm and found out they weren't hiring any women. She went back to Hawaii with her husband and tried to get a job in a law firm and found out they wouldn't hire any Asians. Eventually, she got into politics. She was elected to local and state positions and then ultimately the U.S. Congress. But her experiences that she had led her to take up equality for women and ultimately co-author Title IX. It's 1972. Women earned 58 cents on the dollar compared to men. 98% of athletic budgets went to men. 98%. Only 9% of medical schools and 7% of law schools were women. So, as shared with you, the Title IX Education Amendment prohibited sex discrimination in any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. As you can imagine, the men's athletic coaches were not thrilled with the prospect that they might lose some of their funding to women's sports. They began lobbying Congress, and 3 years later, in 1975, Congress took up another vote to remove athletics from the bill. But people like Patsy fought back. Patsy was strong and outspoken, and Title IX stayed as it was written. When a man is strong and stands up for what he believes and is tough, he's revered. He's called a strong leader. But when a woman is those things, she's cantankerous and difficult to work with. Those are the words that Patsy Mink's colleagues used to describe her. So when Dot Deal arrived here in 1973, just after Title IX went into law, although some changes were made immediately, you didn't just snap your fingers and have Title IX enacted and everything was better. The hard work was only just beginning, and it continues today. Dot was a physical educator, exercise physiologist, and longtime field hockey coach. Like Patsy, Dot grew up at a time when many Americans felt that women's role was to be at home, taking care of the children and preparing dinner for when the husband came home. That was not going to be Dot. Dot earned her bachelor's degree at Westchester State College, a master's from UNH, a PhD from the University of Illinois, all while working here at Plymouth State full-time and raising her children with her husband, Tom. She served as the department chair for health, physical education, and recreation for 11 years. And while at PSU, she became a leader in so many areas all across campus. She played a pivotal role in PSU understanding its legal and moral obligations in meeting Title IX. She pushed, she tugged, and at times I'm sure she made them squirm, and I'll bet there were men that said Dot Deal is difficult to work with. Senator Daniel Inouye, before Patsy joined Congress, thought of his Democratic colleagues and he said, "We thought we were democratic and open-minded. It never occurred to us that we came from a man's world." He also said that you must have in any movement people who are insistent and demanding, somebody to make you ashamed of yourself. So when Dot arrived here, she found herself in a man's world. She and other people in this room, Wendy Palmquist, others, John, were the people that were insistent and demanding. Dot's work on the Athletic Council, Affirmative Action Committee, Equity Committee, Women's Studies Council, just to name a fraction of her service roles, had a real impact on Plymouth State. She became a leader advocating for equality for women, especially in athletics. And she was a mentor to all of us younger women. Dot was even called on to testify at a Title IX case in 1985, and then she was later recognized with the Theo Calico Award for her work in supporting equality for women. As Joan said, those of you that didn't know Dot was a force in a tiny package. She was the strongest person I knew. She was spunky. She had the strongest sense of right and wrong. And no matter how difficult she knew a situation was going to be, she stood her ground. She was the model of integrity, and she taught us that integrity means doing what is right, even when you know that others will make your life difficult because you did so. She was kind and generous with her time, and she listened. She truly listened. When I think of Dot, I have such a strong visual of sitting with her, whether it was in a meeting with multiple people or alone in her office talking for hours, strategizing, trying to solve a problem, planning the future. But she always listened so intently, usually while eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on homemade bread made by her husband, Tom. And when we would finish speaking, she would sit in silence, reflecting, processing, thinking about what you said. You could almost see the wheels turning. She was so thoughtful and reflective and wise, and she gave the best advice. When I think about this world and the people that are admired, athletes, movie stars, coaches for winning games, Dot Deal is someone who is worthy of admiration. So I'm really pleased that Plymouth State has chosen to honor Dot with the annual game, and in a couple of weeks, she'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So 2002, 50 years later, medical schools and law schools are 50% women. Hooray, right? But women still earn 82 cents on the dollar. Congress has the highest number of women in its history of America at 27%. So, yes, we have come a long way, but we still have a way to go. We still need Patsy Minks and Dot Deals in this world to keep on fighting for equality. So, when I look out at you younger women, you are, and I was as well, a beneficiary of people like Patsy and Dot and others in this room. But you're going to have to take the baton. Don't settle for less. Do not settle for it's better than it was, right? It is better than it was. Don't settle for that. You stand up for what is right and for the equality that women deserve. That's how you'll thank people like Dot and Patsy Mink. Thank you.
Julie, thank you. That was fantastic. I'm all fired up right now. I had to calm down. Okay, now this thing's not gonna. So we have a lot of really powerful short people in the history of Plymouth State athletics. So you're next. Sorry about that. I didn't write that down. That just came to me. All right. He arrived here in 1967 as a college freshman from a farm down the road in Goffstown, New Hampshire. This kid was going to become the architect behind much of our campus, both physically and philosophically. John's 45-year career here is rich, but his tenure as director of athletics is what he often points to when he pats his heart. John does that a lot. And he does a lot of side hugs, but that's another story. His time as AD is highlighted by some of the greatest moments in Panther sports. Where he made his biggest impact, and I speak from this experience, is the advancement of women on our campus in athletics and beyond. Encouraging women to take a seat at the table, giving them the tools and the voice to do so. John was the first man to serve on the President's Commission for the Status of Women, and in 2009, he became the first man to receive the coveted Theo Calico Award, an honor given for efforts toward the advancement of women and women's issue on our campus and our greater community. John has been an influence on so many of us in athletics and beyond. And when he retired in 2017, 3 women were left in leadership positions in athletics. Kim, our director of athletics, Courtney, OC, our associate athletic director, and myself. I didn't wear my badge today, Kim, sorry. Courtney, our associate AD, couldn't be here tonight, but she spoke to me about the influence that John had on her career. And so in her words, John was and still is to this day my biggest mentor. One of the many lessons he taught me was the value of relationships and how important they are in every aspect of your life. And by building these relationships, it gives your work substance, it gives your work heart, and great things will come, and impact is imminent. John has a lot to share about his journey, his role models, his passion for sports, his relationships with his colleagues. He often talks a lot about his talks with Janet and Dot, 2 women we've heard a lot about today, and what they accomplished together, building relationships, and what can grow from listening and challenging each other. Thank you, John, for all you have done for Plymouth State Athletics, and many of us in this room tonight. I welcome John P. Clark.
That was very nice, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that put this special event together tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. The first thing I do want to do is give a shout out to Deb. Congratulations on your induction. I'm looking forward to that in the LEC Hall of Fame. I'm going to echo some of the things that folks have said before me today and put a little different twist on things. Thank goodness for Title IX. The sad reality is without Title IX, good people and not so good people would rationalize and not treat women and men equally. And I emphasize equal treatment and not fair. Fair can be rationalized, but equal not so much. Case in point, let's look at that 1972 to 1980 period, the first 8 years of Title IX, and where we were at PSC during that time period. As has been said, on June 23rd, 1972, Title IX became law. But the law did not have very much clout. Several efforts and attempts, and Julie alluded to this, were made from 1974 through 1978 to amend and water down Title IX. Thankfully, they all failed. Then, in 1979, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare issued an interpretation of Title IX, which finally gave the law some teeth. And in 1980, the newly formed Department of Education was given responsibility for overseeing compliance of Title IX through the Office of Civil Rights. Something that Joan said earlier, and I'll be quoting Dot in a minute, but one of the things I remember Dot saying at that time was that was the date when women were permitted to sweat. So, now a quick snapshot of Plymouth State and where we were at during that same time period. Remember that the PE Center had just been opened, and again, Joan mentioned coming to that beautiful new building, and it was arguably one of the finest facilities of its kind in New England. It was designed and built by good people that rationalize fairness. And let me just give you a few examples of those first 8 years. The equipment room in the PE Center, there were 2 equipment rooms. There was an equipment room for the men, which is where the current equipment room is, and there was a large laundry room adjacent to that, and the entrance, you access the men's equipment room from the men's locker room. There was no access through the hallways. The women's equipment room was the small room when you go out of the back side of the main women's locker room. There's a tiny room that's about 6 feet wide and 20 feet long, and that was the locker room that the women had. And as they weren't sweating at that time, there were no laundry facilities. There was one varsity locker room for the women, and that was what is currently locker room E. And that was that's the tiny locker room just off the back of the women's locker room, and that was the varsity locker room for all women's athletics. The men had a much larger locker room, which eventually got incorporated into the athletic training room. So neither was adequate, but certainly the women's was much less adequate. In athletic training at that time, the athletic training room, you entered and exited through the men's locker room. There was no athletic training facilities for the women. And on 5 Saturdays every fall, the women's locker room was padlocked and closed, and no women were allowed in because that was used for the visiting football team to have a locker room. Another snapshot very quickly. In 1975-76 76 academic year, men's basketball played 26 games and women's basketball played 11. In 1977, men's lacrosse played 13 games, women's lacrosse played 8, and in 1979, men's soccer played 17 games and women's soccer played 7. Now, we mentioned earlier about the turning point for Title IX in 1980. And let's take a look at that time period at Plymouth State, and that's the 80 to 84 time period. In 1980, I was serving as the director of the student union. Also in 1980, we had an amazing president named Casper Marking. President Marking had very high aspirations for athletics, but candidly, he did not have the people in place to advance his ideas on the campus. So coincidentally, in March of 1980, the director of athletics position opened up. So don't ask me who I thought I was, but I felt I could be that person to advance President Marking's vision for athletics. So I met with him. Now remember, I had no experience in athletics. I had never played a varsity sport in my life, and I was not a faculty member. And at that time, all governance and athletics fell under the faculty. So after telling me I was crazy, he said that I could pursue the position, but one of the conditions that he put on me was I needed to get the support of the faculty in athletics. So the first 2 people that I met with were Dot Deal and Janet Nell. And with their support, I was appointed Director of Athletics in 1980. I was so lucky Dot and Janet were there. Through their leadership, guidance, and patience with me, and I experienced so many of the things that all of you did with them and that Julie outlined in meeting with them. But we established a direction for athletics that still exists today. There is a direct line between Dot and Janet and Kim Bounds and everyone in athletics today. Working with Dot and Janet, I became very passionate about Title IX, specifically as it dealt with athletics, and more specifically, the part of Title IX that deals with equal treatment. In many ways, it is simple. How can you argue with not treating people equally? From Dot and Janet to today, a bedrock of our department has been and is, no matter your gender, your ethnicity, the color of your skin, or your sexual orientation, you are treated equally, and you are respected, and you are safe. So back to 1980. With Dot and Janet at my side, we began immediately addressing the laundry list. Now, the laundry list is the part of Title IX that addresses equal treatment, and this was a big part of the ruling that came out in 1980. And we started looking at all of those things that we've talked about: equipment, supplies, games and practice times, travel, per diem, allowance, coaching, locker rooms, practice and competitive facilities, medical training, and publicity and promotion. And we made very great gains immediately. So the gains that we were not able to make in the mid-'70s, we started making them very quickly after 1980. The facilities things took a little longer, and people like Julie and others gave us a lot of support. But an example is that you now enter the equipment room through the main hallway, and the walls were boarded up in the men's locker room. Same with athletic training, and same with so many others of our other parts of our facilities. In some ways, a bigger issue in 1980 was that we were still very loyal members of the AIAW, which was the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women. And I remember so many meetings with Dot and Janet because their heart was with the AIAW, but they were losing membership very, very quickly. We stayed with them during the 80-81 and 81-82 academic years, and we were among the very last schools to leave, but finally we joined the NCAA in 1982. The NCAA in 1982 provided very little to schools like Plymouth State, and I do not feel that they did give our women's athletics the attention that they deserved. And we're going to be celebrating the LEC with Deb's induction tonight, but there was no LEC. There was no conference for Plymouth to turn to. And how do we provide opportunities for women that would be equal to men, particularly with postseason play? So enter the ECAC. And I have a tremendous loyalty, and I'll always appreciate how the ECAC responded to us at that time. And it was Plymouth State, you should all know this, it was Plymouth State that led the successful effort to establish postseason opportunities for teams that did not have them, primarily for women. And not only to provide those opportunities, but to host. We had some very, very famous postseason games prior to 1980. The most famous of all was when the women's lacrosse team under Janet Nell was the first women's team to ever play in the Yale Bowl. And we played Springfield and beat them for the New England Championship. Now, that's a great part of our history. Nobody saw it. You know, it was in Yale. We started hosting tournaments thanks to the ECAC. And I want to just give you, it was immediate for us. And some of those games I remember to this day. And I remember the crowds, and I remember how wonderful it was. But let me just mention a few. In 1983, women's soccer hosted and won the first ever ECAC Women's Soccer Championship. And by the way, in the summer of 1983, we had a wonderful coach, Chris Razzieri. She was hired at Lemoyne, and she left. And what are we going to do? I turned to Janet Nell, and I begged, and I begged. Janet had never coached soccer, and Janet coached the soccer team, and we ended up winning the ECAC championship. 1984, women's soccer won the ECAC championship again. In the fall of '83, field hockey played in the first ever ECAC championship, and the following spring in '84, women's lacrosse won the first ever women's lacrosse ECAC championship with head coach Janet Nell. '84, softball played in the first ever ECACs, and softball won the ECACs in '85. And not to be forgotten, we had tremendous football teams at that time, and the football teams were also snubbed by the NCAA year after year. And ECAC responded, and football played in and won the first ECAC championship in 1983. Those were among the most exciting times ever for me personally and for us at athletics, and to see the turnout. Again, I remember so many of those women's championships, and there's one I'm pretty sure was won on a shootout against Kobe, but anyway, it's a long time ago. There's so many other stories and so many other things I'd like to share, but I need to close, and I'd like to just focus on women in Title IX. I'm going to echo some of the things Julie said. I'm pleased that we're here today to acknowledge the 50th anniversary of a law that said women and men should be treated equally. I'm pleased we're here today to recognize people like Dot and Janet, who effectively championed equal treatment for women. Although we've made some advances, the reality is, in our society in 2022, women are not treated equally with men. And I ask all of you today to carry on the torch that Dot and Janet handed off to us, to have their passion and commitment to find opportunities to advance, promote, and support women, with the goal that someday women and men will be treated equally. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, a highly valued and respected member of the athletic team, the former head women's volleyball coach, and a champion for equal treatment for all, Assistant Athletics Director Chris Kilmer.
It's rare that I'm one of the taller people presenting. Thanks, John. I will send you the check for those compliments afterwards. While the Little East Conference Hall of Fame was officially announced over the summer, since we are celebrating the accomplishments of Panther women tonight, it only seemed appropriate to recognize one of the most highly decorated athletes from one of the most successful athletic programs, men or women, at the same time. Deb Bichet-Labby helped lead the Plymouth State women's soccer team to an incredible 4-year run from 1988 to 1991, during which the Panthers posted an overall record of 62, 10, and 1, making 4 NCAA tournament appearances, including the regional finals in 1988, 1989, and 1991, and berths in the Final Four in 1989 and 1991. Deb garnered numerous accolades during her 4 years, being named the first ever Little East Conference Women's Soccer Player of the Year as a junior in 1990, the first year women's soccer was recognized by the conference. Deb led Plymouth State to a 13-3 record that year, leading the team in scoring with 7 goals and 3 assists. She was named second team All-Region by the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, while the Panthers won the first ever Little East Conference Women's Soccer Championship, a feat the team would repeat again in 1991. Deb's senior campaign was her most decorated, as she repeated as LEC Player of the Year, was named First Team All-Region and First Team All-America by the NSCAA. She recorded career highs of 8 goals, 4 assists, and 20 points in her final collegiate season, helping lift the Panthers to a regional title and a trip to the Final Four for the second time in 3 years. She was later named the New Hampshire Women Athlete of the Year, winning out over nominees from all NCAA Division I, II, and III institutions in the state. A native of Waterville, Maine, Deb has never truly left the sport. She just traded in her boots for a whistle. She's amassed over 220 wins as a collegiate head coach, leading the program at Thomas College since 2011. Her coaching career also includes stints at St. Joseph's College of Maine from 1993 to 95 and St. Lawrence University from 1998 to 2007. Deb first arrived at Thomas as its director of athletics from 2008 to 2011 before making her return to the pitch as the head coach that fall. And she still patrols the sidelines at Thomas while also filling the role of associate director of athletics for operations and facilities. Unbeaten at home this year, no pressure, the Terriers have home conference matches both tomorrow and Sunday, so we are incredibly fortunate to have Deb here with us tonight. At this time, I'd like to ask Deb to come forward and be recognized, and also have Little East Conference Commissioner Pam Samuelson and our Director of Athletics, Kim Bounds, to join us, presenting Deb with some gifts from the women's soccer team, as your Hall of Fame ring got shipped to Massachusetts and not New Hampshire. Sorry, that one's out of my hands. So please come. And yes.
I'm short as well. Seems to be a theme here at Plymouth State. Must be something in the water, except for you, Lauren. I'm sorry, but you came here taller as well. I'm going to put this down because I'm a little bit nervous.
They want you to open that after, no pressure.
Oh, do you want me to do that now?
No, you can do it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for this wonderful honor. The Little East Conference, Plymouth State. When Chris Kilmer called me, I think it was last spring, that he said, we're going to put your name forward as a nominee for this award and this honor. I said, wow, really? There's so many people that should be in front of me. And I'm truly humbled and honored with the award. Been reading a really good book lately. It's called The Wolf Pack by Abby Wambach. Anybody know that book or have heard that book? If you know who Abby Wambach is, raise your hand. If you don't know, she's an incredible retired soccer player for the U.S. national team, and she wrote a great book called The Wolf Pack. And one of the chapters in that book is tremendous. It's called Champion Each Other. Okay, champion each other. And she talks a lot about rules, the old rules that women had, and the new rules that women have in this book. And in that chapter, the old rule used to be against each other, referring to women, be against each other. And now it's be for each other. That's the new rule. And so one of the huge things I really want to point out is that I had tremendous teammates that I played with. And one of the things that we would often do, and Abby also talks about this in her book, is when a goal is scored, you point to all the teammates that helped you out along the way, all the people that were there for you. You point to her. Okay, and just a great point. And so at this time, I'd like the following people to come up here. And I know, Beth, you just got scared, but come up here anyway, because you know your name's going to be called. But could I have Carol Rogers come up here, please? Could I have Trish Geary come up here? Madsen. Could I have Beth Field? And yeah, you have to stand on my right, Carol, because I know I never played it to you, because I always played it to the left. Yeah, Trish, you were right here. Sweeper behind. Yep. Mary St. Germain, come up here. If you could come up here. Coach Feldman, if you could come up and be on the sideline, please. This was a tremendous award, and I'm pointing to you. These are the folks right here. Pointing to these folks right here. Because every single one of them, whenever I scored a goal, or if I had an assist, or if we had a play, they were all a part of it. Every single one of them right here. So thank you. Let's give them a hand really quick, okay? Thank you. Thank you, guys. So I'm getting a little, it's such a great thing to be a college athlete, and I'm a product of Title IX. This award is a product of that. The Little East started in recognizing women's soccer in 1990. Am I correct on that? I believe so, Chris? Okay. And so some of my teammates here finished their careers before 1990. Otherwise, they may have been recognized in this award as well. Again, champion each other. So tomorrow, Panthers, when you score goals, point to her, okay? And if you score a goal, if somebody scores a goal on your team, you run to her. You run to her. That's the other piece of it. Thank you very much, Plymouth State administration. Thank you for the nomination and the award. Truly humbled and honored. Thank you. Do I need to open it? I've been told to open my gift. I'm very excited.
Don't let Kim see it, though.
Who?
Kim.
Okay.
She's a little stingy about the budget. But in the spirit of Title IX. I know.
Oh, nice. this off.
There you go.
Today's the 23rd? Yeah, awesome. Thank you, women's soccer. This is great.
You can still wear it. You go, Dad.
We're going to suck it in. Thank you very much. Oh, you don't have to. Okay, thank you. All right.
Much of tonight has been spent celebrating the trailblazers of the past, and deservedly so. Those leaders paved the way for our current athletes to experience opportunities and successes that were once just the stuff of dreams. And so it seemed fitting to invite a current athlete in the midst of a dream season to look toward the future. Please join me in welcoming junior Taylor Healy, a captain of the field hockey team who has started the year scoring at least one goal in each of the Panthers' first 6 games. Taylor?
All right. Hi, guys. So I took a public speaking class in high school, so it's about time it pays off. Anyway, I just want to start by saying thank you for inviting me to speak on behalf of the value of Title IX. Title IX has impacted my life in many ways. Specifically, though, it has allowed me to achieve my goal of playing college field hockey. Just like many other female athletes, I've had one of the most positive and impactful experiences, especially here at Plymouth State. I can easily say that this experience all starts with my fellow teammates, leaders, and coaches who have constantly pushed me each day to be a better student, athlete, and person. As much as I love to win, the sport has a much bigger meaning to it. From the beginning, I have learned that a team cannot be successful without communication, leadership, and trust. I get to surround myself each day with female athletes who have the same intentions, values, and love for the game as I do. Title IX has not just allowed us to play the sport we love, but it has allowed us to build character as a team and strive to be great. Coach Lord and Coach Kate are 2 outstanding women who I can easily say I look up to. Because of their fearless leadership, they have allowed my teammates and I to use our voices in any way to stick up for what we want and what we believe. They have shown us what true passion and leadership is and have allowed us to become role models for the future generation of field hockey players and young female athletes out there. These 2 ladies don't just coach field hockey, they teach life lessons. They have taught us to never give up, and as women, to have confidence in ourselves with whatever we are doing. They have truly shown us what true passion, commitment, and dedication looks like for all the female athletes here. They have set the foundation and the bar high, as we should follow in their footsteps to continue supporting and advocating for Title IX. To wrap up this speech, I just wanted to say that sports have changed my life and as a whole, and I seriously couldn't imagine who I would be without the opportunity to play the game I love. With that being said, I will continue advocating for my fellow female athletes here at Plymouth State. The future is bright for all our women's sports teams here on campus. There will be days where we win and lose, but in the end, we can come together as one and celebrate the little things, such as the importance and value of Title IX. Thank you.
That was awesome, Taylor. I'm just giving closing remarks. A lot of things that other people said were what I was going to say, so took the wind out of my sails. But it has been an incredible event, and I especially want to thank Lauren, because Lauren is the one who put all of this together, and I want to thank her so much for continuing her quest of promoting and supporting women, and specifically women in athletics. I so much admire the women who played their sports prior to Title IX, the ones who played when there were no organized programs, and but they played because they loved it. And the ones who didn't care what anybody said about them, but they persevered. They were strong in so many ways, and they paved the way for us. Those pictures with the women in the long dresses with the basketballs, unbelievable.
Nobody did mention tonight that there are 10 times more girls and women participating in sports than there were prior to Title IX. And that is absolutely fantastic. But as Julie said, we still have a very long way to go. And, for the gentlemen here in the room, especially the younger gentlemen, Title IX is not any kind of knock on young men and men in athletics, but you want to also be part of championing for women as well, just as John Clark did for all of us. And I would not be in my position without John Clark, who really showed me what it was to be in athletics. I was a ski racer, and I was a coach of men and women, and had no idea about athletic administration. And of Title IX, quite frankly, because I'm Canadian. And Title IX is a U.S. law. And I just didn't understand any of it. And fortunately, John taught me everything I needed to know. Well, and it's really important, and it really opened my eyes. And then Julie was the person who put me, when John retired, Julie put me in the position of interim athletic director. So thank you. So I just want to say that it's up to all of us, men and women, to encourage and empower girls and young women to participate in sports and continue after they're done. So we need to see more female coaches. We need to see more female administrators and more female officials. How about the officials right now? A lot of officials, some officials in the NFL, women. Okay, you can do it. You can do that. You just need to know the rules. All right? Or not. And student athletes, you don't need to be a student athlete to be involved in athletics. Nicole, can you stand? Nicole is our super student worker, and Nicole is learning a ton about athletic administration. So she may not have been on a varsity team here, but I'm hoping that she looks to athletics as a career in the future. We need to attend women's games, okay? We need to watch women's games on TV. We are making strides. We have JT in our wonderful weight room, making women stronger, giving them confidence, empowering them. And all of that, those kinds of things are really important. No human being is better than any other human being. Whatever gender you are, whatever race you are, Canadians are a little better, right, Ben? But no, so we really need to look at things that way and all help the cause. And I did an interview with a young woman doing her PhD, I believe from UMass Boston, just yesterday. And it's about women in athletics, and specifically women athletic directors. And whoa, I couldn't answer some of the questions. Questions like, why are there not more women in athletics and as ADs and as coaches? And, I was like, maybe it's the time commitment, right? It's a huge, huge time commitment. We're working early morning to late at night, weekends, and you have to love athletics to want to do that. And then, a lot of women have young families, and that is really difficult. The question was, how do we change that? And I don't have the answers, but I think collectively, if we all think of ways to be able to help that, we can get more women in athletics. So I think that's all I had to say. And thank you so much. I'm so proud of everybody who is here, men and women. And thank you again, Lauren.
Thank you, everyone. That was awesome. A lot of great energy in the room. And tomorrow we get to continue that. We have some alumni games, women's lacrosse, field hockey alumni game. We have all of our women's varsity programs are home tomorrow. Women's soccer right out here at noon. Volleyball team will be up in Foley Gymnasium at noon. Field hockey is at 3 o'clock in the back. What's that name of that field again? Panther Field. Sorry, that brand new turf field. Thank you, John. Sorry about that. Against UMass Dartmouth. So it's a full day of athletics, a full day to celebrate women with hopefully, and we have women's tennis at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Kathy. Right up the street, just at the Holderness School against UMass Dartmouth as well. So thank you. So a great day to celebrate women. Again, congratulations, Deb, and so excited to see so many of your teammates and Coach Feldman back here tonight. So thank you, everyone.